I went to a Comic-Con recently and I did something I've never done before. I got some comics signed, witnessed, and submitted for grading. I'm not much of an autographed comic type person. I don't actually own any books that are slabbed and signed. So this was a little bit of a first for me. It was a fun, small con. I'll tell you all about it. And the artist wasn't really busy. And I figured I'd get in there and get it done for the first time. It was a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be, but I think it's a good experience. So I recently just got the books back from CGC. So I'm going to open these up off camera so you don't have to watch me cut through all this tape and 50 layers of bubble wrap. Let's stick around and let's stick around. Well, I'm going to stick around because this is my video. You can stick around or not. I don't know. We'll see what the grades are. I don't think they're very high grades. That wasn't the goal. I didn't bring any books that I thought were going to be high grade. This was more just for fun and just to have them. All right, well, stick around. We'll open these up. We'll see what I got. Welcome to Swarm of Comics. I'm Randy, your handsome and humble host. So after the past 20 minutes of getting all the layers of bubble wrap off, we finally got down to the two books. They got them in envelopes. They're taped up pretty well. But I figure I can't really cut through those because I'll probably end up seeing the grades. So I'll do that while we're on camera here. I was almost going to say while we're on film. Tell me you're old without telling me you're old, because there's no film involved here. So I'm going to open these up and I'll tell you a little bit about how I ended up with these books and how I ended up getting them graded. As I mentioned in the intro video, I was at a Comic-Con. It's called the Old School Comic-Con Little Giant Comic-Con. Little Giant Comics is a store. They're now in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and they have amazing collectibles there. Jason is the owner with his wife, and there are a million kids that are always there working. And they've been in a couple of locations, Salem, New Hampshire. Now they're down in Lawrence, Mass. And he puts this con together every year, the Old School Con, in April, typically, I think, up in Concord, New Hampshire. It's in a big ice arena, and it's pretty cheap to get in. And they have some pretty decent guests and a lot of good vendors. It's fun. This was my second time going. I wish I'd have known about it years ago. I have my friend George O'Connor that you've seen in some of the other videos, who is a comic writer, has set up there before and sold his books that he's had done before. So Jason puts this Comic-Con together. If you're up here in the Northeast, definitely take the trip to go up there. I know I saw Lunch Money Comics was there, and a bunch of different other people in the community. So it was a lot of fun. So I went to this con, and before I went to the con, I was down in my basement, and my wife and I were going through a bunch of old bins, and there was this big Tupperware bin, about that deep, about that wide, this wide, whatever it was, doesn't really matter to the story. And it was full of comics. And she said, "Hey, these are my daughter Brooks, and somebody gave them to her 15, 20 years ago or something like that. She doesn't even know they're here. She doesn't care. You can have them, go through them, whatever." So I opened the bin up, and for the most part, I don't know how many books are in there. 60, 70. There was a lot of books. And some of them were in such bad shape, I might use them in the fire pit this year to start the fire pit. They were stained, they were dirty. They were comics that you would give to a kid that might, you want to see them maybe get into comics, or if they're interested in them and stuff like that. It was probably whoever owned these books probably had probably obviously collected comics and just had some, really common stuff. But the majority of it was complete junk. I mean, junk. But there were a few books in there, all early 90s stuff, a lot of, Image junk, a lot of generic Marvel stuff. But as I went through it, there was a couple of books that were worth pulling out. And they mostly survived because they were more heavy-duty cardstock for the covers. During the big boom in the very early 90s, when Image Comics came around, and there was this massive competition between all these companies to put out more interesting and cooler books. Everything was die cut and foil and lenticular and everything like that until they eventually destroyed the hobby. And that might be coming now again, because we're really into variants and all these crazy covers and stuff like that. So anyway, I pulled out a couple of these books that I thought were worth at least rescuing. They weren't worth a lot of money. They weren't in the best condition, but they were at least worth pulling to a side. And here at my desk where I work and make these videos, I just kind of had a stack of them sitting just under one of my monitors. I was going to go through, I was going to look them up at some point, but they were just sitting there for weeks, maybe months. And what happened is I knew the old school Comic-Con was coming up from Little Giant. And I looked up on the website like the day before, 2 days before, and I just wanted to see what time it started and how much it was to get in because I had a very short window of time that day. I was only able to stay at the con like less than 2 hours, I think. And that was probably even too long. I had a gig that night with my band Swarm of Eyes. We were opening for Doyle, the guitar player, Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein. Said that all wrong. From the legendary punk band, The Misfits. He was doing a solo tour. We were just the local openers here. The show went phenomenal. It was absolutely amazing. Never sold so many t-shirts and merch. The crowd was absolutely fantastic. If anybody who watched these videos was there and knows us from there, thank you so much. That was one of the best musical experiences ever. So I went to the con. I only had a short time there. And I knew that. And I wanted to look, who are the guest stars? Who is signing books? Who is going to be there? Who are the vendors? And I started looking through and I saw a couple of things that piqued my interest. And I mean, I'll even show you. Here's a couple of the books. They're still sitting here in the monitor. So this one's in pretty good shape. This is a Web of Spider-Man foil cover, issue 100. It's in pretty good shape. I don't think it's worth anything. I think the artist is Alex Savalik. They were not at the con. But that was one example. Another one was the foil cover of X-Men 300. It's in pretty good shape. It's got a little rub on it. I mean, these books were just in a Tupperware bin. There was no bags. There was no boards, except one, apparently. I made a liar of myself, but you probably can't see it, but oh, right there. It's got some color rub. I don't even think it would be worth much anyway, but it's pretty cool cover. John Romita Jr. cover, who I love, or used to love. I wouldn't say he's the best anymore. But there was these handful of things. Out of like 60 or 80 books, I pulled out like 5. And then I pulled this one out, Megaton #7. Not in great shape. This was the weirdest book in this batch of comics. It didn't make any sense. This is Jackson Guise, who goes by Butch Guise from '86. And my friend Max Phillips, who does the channel Joy of Cardboard, please go check him out. I'll try to remember to put the links down in the description. Always read the descriptions because there's good information down there. And I say funny things and you'll get a big laugh out of it. Well, we're going to have a good time. He has issue #1 of this. This is issue #7 is probably not worth a lot and it's not in great shape. But I don't know, Max, when you watch this video, and you better watch this video, if you want this, let me know and I'll send it to you, buddy. So that's the books that I went through. So as I was looking at the website for the Old School Comic-Con, I noticed that one of the artists there was going to be Mark Bagley. Now, if you're a comic collector, you probably know Mark Bagley is the artist from Amazing Spider-Man who took over for Todd McFarlane. I think he took over McFarlane and maybe Bagley left and Eric Larson took over. I can't remember the order, nor is it important to the story. But Bagley had a good run on Amazing Spider-Man. And then he did Ultimate Spider-Man, back in 2001 with Brian Michael Bendis, which of course is still in impact today. And Mark Bagley is a very long revered artist in the industry. So I knew that usually there was a few people that were at this con like us, Steranko and Jim Starlin. It kind of looks like in history. They were there last year, but I hadn't seen Bagley before. This year, definitely the Old School Comic-Con. And make sure you go to Little Giant store, like I said, in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Look them up. They're definitely stepping it up. And this year, this con was way busier than last year. It was jammed. The line for getting autographs from Steranko, Jim Steranko, was enormous. I thought about bringing some books, but my planning was so last minute. Maybe next year. So stick around, Jim. Don't go anywhere. I got a Captain America 110 or something I want you to sign. But I brought these Spider-Man books that happened to be ones that I pulled out of this old bin. Um, maybe it was a Venom book and Amazing Spider-Man. We'll look them up. Well, obviously we're going to see them. But I saw them. They were sitting right here on my desktop, right at my desk. What are the weird, odd coincidence that like I just happened to be sitting here, I could see them, and I'm looking up the list of, guests, and Bagley's there. And I was like, this is kismet for Mark and I. And I decided to grab them. I brought them. I was kind of a little embarrassed, and I wasn't sure if there was going to be a long line. And for somebody who's so outgoing and does YouTube videos and plays in a band, I don't like to bother people. I don't want to bother artists. And I know they're there to make money and do this, but it all feels too transaction-y, if that makes any sense. But I brought them. Left them in my car, went to the con, walked around, talked to some people that I knew, looked at some comics. Here's a fun fact. I didn't actually buy any comics at the Comic-Con. I bought a couple of things from my friend Carl. I call him Comic Carl. I just add the word comic to any friend of mine that's into comics. Comic Tom, Comic Carl, comic anybody. If you want to be my pal, I'll call you Comic something. Just tell me your name. Comic Eric. But anyway, Carl had a couple of things and he came. He's High Grade Keys on Instagram. I'll try to remember to put the handle up here somewhere and post maybe a photo. But I got a pulp off of him, and then another 70s Bronze Age horror book, which is fun, just cheap. But while I was there, I walked around for a while. I did my thing, and I saw Bagley, and he was doing sketches. He'd been busy earlier, but he was in a lull now. So I said, I'm just going to do it. I went out to the car, grabbed the books. I didn't even have them in bags and boards. They literally just came out of a Tupperware bin. I didn't even have them packaged right. I grabbed them out of the car and brought them inside. And I get in line. There's no real line. It's just, Mark there and a handler. And they happened to be set up also right next to a company that was called Captured Collectibles. I don't know why I'm looking at it down there. Captured Collectibles. I guess they're out of Florida, and they are a facilitator for CGC, and I think they'll do CBCS. I think they just will do it in general. On one side of Bagley was this company, and then on the other side, CBCS was there. They might have had their own people authorizing, but this company was there. And I asked him about the process. A very nice gentleman helped me out. I don't remember his name, but I remember the nickname that we gave him that day. I'll tell that story in a minute because I know you love stories. But they are an authorized signature witness company, and they'll do the submitting for you to CGC. The guy walked me through the process. He had a clipboard. He filled out everything for me. He witnessed the signature, took my books, and it seemed a little shifty, but I got them, so I know that it worked. So it just was kind of perfect. They weren't super busy. They had somebody that could help me. Mark Bagley wasn't busy, so I decided to go for it. So the witness guy was there, and he said to me, "Okay, go get your books. I'm here. We'll get going." So when you see these artists, very often they have a handler, and this handler is the one who's taking the money, finding out what deal do you want? Do you want, how many books do you want signed? Do you want sketches? Do you want something customized? They do all the work, and then they just take your money, run your card, and then they hand it off and just tell the artist what to do. They don't have to think or run things, run their table. They have a handler. So I was standing there not even paying attention, and I went up to the handler and I had my books, and the handler yells my name. He yells, "Randy!" And I look, and it's my friend Eric Corpy. Hi, Eric. Hopefully you're watching the video. He usually comments. And I scream, "Eric!" And Mark Bagley goes, "Everybody shut up and stop yelling." So I knew we were in for a fun time right off the bat. Eric has worked at the Boston Comic Cons for many, many years, taking care of so much stuff, and he happened to be working at this con. I think it's his first con post-pandemic, getting out, started to get to the cons again. So it was great seeing him. We started catching up, running everything through, and he was so good and so helpful. So I decided just to get these two books signed. I didn't want any sketches. I didn't need anything fancy. Let's get them signed. Let's get them witnessed, everything like that. So Mark Bagley yelled at me a couple more times. Didn't find me funny at all. And he was definitely super grumpy, but I think that's his way of having fun. Right? Right, Mark? We're best friends, aren't we? So I got them signed. got them witnessed, and while we were getting them signed, the not the handler, the guy over at Captured Collectibles, he was talking about that if he was going to get books autographed, he'd need a double cover if he was going to be on the cover, because he was so big. He wasn't that big, that he'd have to be on both sides. So we started calling him Wraparound. That was his nickname. So that was my funny story that probably seemed like it was going to be funnier when I told it, but there it is. But Wraparound was really funny. He was really helpful. Eric was helpful. Mark was really funny. Had a good time. Got a picture with him. Maybe I'll put it in the thumbnail, or I'll just put it up here, one of these places. So that was it. That was the process. I went to the con. There was a signature authentication witnessing company there who also submitted them to CGC for you. And I got my first book signed at a con. I think I've only ever got 2 other books signed ever. And I've submitted those to CGC. I got them signed, and CGC didn't authorize signatures. They would have come back a green label, which was, something wrong with it. A page was missing. It was drawn on. As far as CGC is concerned, if you got an autograph all on your own and then you send it to them, who knows? They don't know who wrote on it. But CGC bought a company called JSA. They'll do the research. They'll look to see if the signatures are authentic. They probably even contact the artist or have their signature on file, and then they'll authenticate it for you. So I have 2 books out now. That'll be a video coming soon, hopefully. Or if you're watching them out of order, maybe you've already seen that one. So I got books signed, but I didn't get them graded at the time. I don't even know if I knew what grading was at the time when I got them done, but we'll find out what grade those books get and whether JSA, CGC authorizes them. They could come back and say, we don't recognize the signature, it's not authentic, but I had them signed personally. So I don't know how you fight that. It's a fairly new process. So anyway, those books went off. I've waited since April for them, and I now finally have them back. So I said I was going to open these up while I talked, and I forgot to do that, which is pretty on brand for me. So let's see if we can cut through these. Trusting, this is going to be harder. I'm going to see if there's a fast forward function in these video editor software. Sorry for all the noise. We almost got the first one out. Just think of a topic, and we'll talk about that while I get this open. I think this is all right. Here we go. Here's the first one. This is Venom. This is Venom Lethal Protector. Number 1. This came out in 1993. Says signed by Mark Bagley on 4/13/24. This is the first Venom in his own title. Spider-Man makes an appearance, and it has a red holographic cover, if you can catch that with my ring light. My guess this book could be a 9.2. Maybe not. I don't know. Doesn't really matter, but I got this done. And the yellow label is the Signature Series, as here. So this is, as far as I know, my first yellow Signature Series book I've ever owned or opened. So let's check it out and see what I got. 9.6. Excellent. That's fair for a book that was in a bin for the past 10 or 15 years, and who knows where it was before it. That's not bad. I'd love to read the grader's notes and figure out why it was a 9.6 and not a 9.8, but very cool. Back looks nice. As much as you can see on this little crappy camera, the back looks pretty nice. Cover looks pretty nice. It's probably some spine ticks or something like that. I'll see if I can figure it out. I don't even know if I can get to the grader's notes because I didn't submit it to CGC. They did, but I can look it up by the number. I'm a stupid. Sorry. So here's the first one. Venom Lethal Protector from 1993 and 9.6. Very successful. Happy about that. Mark Bagley cover. Now there's another version of this book, the error variants, that is a white cover. There's only one known in existence. There's also some black cover. What happened is the foil, they forgot to put the foil on, and it got printed and they went out, and there's very few of them. Whereas this book might be worth $15. This book, let's just say this probably what I paid to get it signed, what I paid to get it authorized and then submitted to CGC and the shipping, the book probably isn't worth that, even signed at a 9.6. Maybe if it was a 9.8, but maybe. But that's okay. That wasn't why I got it done. It was just pretty cool, and I got to meet Mark Bagley, and he was really funny and also mean to me. Yeah, that's good. So, and I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's one of my favorite characters. As I was talking about in other videos, even before I collected and knew about comic books, we had Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Electra Company, which was a children's TV show. Um, Spider-Man books, Spider-Man books, picture books and stuff like that since we were a little kid. And I just loved Spider-Man. And this, I know it's going to sound stupid, but I don't really remember what this book is. But if it's Bagley and was from that time, it's probably a Spider-Man book. And I'm sure everybody knows, but I'll say it anyway. Venom is related to Spider-Man because when Spider-Man had his black suit, it was an alien symbiote, and then it started making Spider-Man be bad. So he got rid of the suit and it ended up on somebody named Eddie Brock. And he became Venom. He let the evil get out. And he's been Spider-Man's like arch villain ever since. He used to be the Green Goblin back in the day. He was the big Spider-Man villain, but Venom's pretty much been the villain for 30-something years now. And I think they just announced the third movie coming out. Should probably watch the second one, but maybe not. All right, what is this? Oh, yeah. Oh, another Venom Amazing Spider-Man. I remember now. 375, 30th anniversary of Spider-Man. This is a gold foiled cover. Ooh, how pretty is that? Signed by Mark Bagley, 4/13/24. First appearance of Anne Weying. I don't have any idea who that is. John Jameson, Chameleon Backup Stories, holographics cover. So, oh, you can see the Bagley signature right there. I didn't even point that on here. You can see the Bagley signature in the silver marker right there. It's a little hidden on them, but there it is. So this one, I felt like it was in worse condition than the others. So if the other's a 9.6, this might be a 9.4. It's got some rub right here. Two comics against each other in a bin moving around forever. So this is 375, Amazing Spider-Man, gold cover. I mean, these present well. That's why I got them done. I mean, the red the red foil and the holographic gold, they just pop. And they got Venom on the cover and everything like that. You couldn't go wrong with these. So let's see what we got. A 9.8. There's no way this is better than the other one, but that's super cool. It's awesome. Nice. A 9.8 in that. That's pretty cool. So I'll have to stick these up behind me there. I love it. All right. Well, anyway, I'm as fascinated. I didn't realize it was going to be a 9.8. That's amazing. Not complaining, but it kind of seemed exactly the same. But I might be missing something. So there it is. There is my new signature books. Smile for the camera. Probably won't come out. No, I'm pretty happy with the results. I'm pretty happy with the process. I kind of love the story of how I got there and how I ended up with the books. It all just kind of worked out good. I probably wouldn't chase down or wait in lines for more signatures unless it was something amazing. I hope I didn't catch this bug because I don't need one more thing to collect. I want to get rid of things, not get more things, but here we are. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Let me know in the comments if you collect any signature books, if you've gotten any done, and what your favorites are. And yeah, cool. And we'll just end it there. This was awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming. I'm Randy at Swarm of Comics. We'll see you in the next video.